Hello everyone. Have you ever wondered why a crowded, poorly ventilated room feels suffocating, even though there is technically enough oxygen to breathe? The answer lies in the invisible medium we live in every single day. Today we are exploring the science of atmospheric quality and thermal comfort, diagnosing physical disruption, measuring comfort, and defending against particulate threats. Let us start by understanding air as a self cleansing medium. The baseline mixture of air consists of 78.1% nitrogen, 20.93% oxygen, 0.03% carbon dioxide, and traces of argon, neon, water vapor, and suspended matter. The daily human requirement of air is 10 to 20 cubic meters. Nature has built in a self cleansing loop to keep this air pure. Wind provides dilution, sweeping away and dispersing impurities. Sunlight provides oxidation, oxidizing impurities and acting as a bactericide. Rain provides scrubbing, washing suspended particulate and gaseous impurities from the atmosphere. And plant life provides exchange, as green plants utilize carbon dioxide and generate life-giving oxygen. Now let us look at an important paradigm shift. The understanding that discomfort in stuffy air is cutaneous, not respiratory. The black hole of Kolkata is a classic illustration of this concept. 146 prisoners were confined in an 18 by 14 by 10 foot room, and only 23 survived. Two small windows provided adequate oxygen, proving that death and discomfort resulted from heat retention, not chemical suffocation. The debunked theory assumed discomfort was caused by a drop in oxygen below 18% and a rise in carbon dioxide above 5%. But the scientific reality is physical and cutaneous. Human metabolic carbon dioxide output is only 0.6 to 0.7 cubic feet per hour, and the air remains breathable long after discomfort sets in. The real factors are heat output, ranging from 400 BTU per hour at rest up to 4000 BTU British thermal units per hour during exertion, moisture output ranging from 700 grams over 24 hours at rest up to 175 grams per hour during exertion, and airflow, where natural movement is impeded, destroying the air's cooling power. This understanding led to the evolution of thermal comfort indices over 5 stages. Stage 1 was air temperature, the primitive baseline, which proved inadequate as a standalone metric. Stage 2 was cooling power, measured using the Kata thermometer, which combined air temperature, humidity, and air movement, but was deemed unreliable. Stage 3 was effective temperature, introduced in 1923, an arbitrary index equating subjective sensation to still saturated air, though it had the flaw of ignoring radiant heat. Stage 4 was corrected effective temperature, the modern standard which swaps the dry bulb for a globe thermometer and accounts for air temperature, velocity, humidity, and mean radiant heat. Stage 5 is predicted 4-hour sweat rate, which focuses on the physiological reaction to work intensity, with the upper limit of the comfort zone being 3 liters of sweat per 4 hours. Let us map this subjective experience to hard data relevant to India. On the corrected effective temperature scale, 20 degrees Celsius feels pleasant and cool, 20 to 25 degrees feels comfortable and cool, 25 to 27 degrees is comfortable, 27 to 28 degrees is hot and uncomfortable, 28 degrees and above is extremely hot, and 30 degrees and above is intolerably hot. On the physiological limit scale, using predicted 4-hour sweat rate, 1 to 3 liters falls within the comfort zone, 3 to 4.5 liters is just tolerable, and 4.5 liters and above is intolerable. It is important to note that comfortable thermal conditions are those under which a person can maintain normal heat balance without sweating. Moving beyond comfort, let us examine the architecture of atmospheric pollution. Pollutants can be classified by origin and by state. By origin, primary pollutants are emitted directly, for example from exhausts, while secondary pollutants are formed chemically in the atmosphere, such as ozone. By state, gaseous pollutants achieve deep lung penetration, while particulate pollutants exist as solid or liquid suspensions ranging from 1 to 100 micrometers. Pollution also disperses across different scales. At the local scale, over hours, biomass fuels and household combustion dominate. At the urban scale, over hours to days, nitrogen oxides and carbon monoxide get trapped in street corridors. At the regional scale, over days to weeks, fine particles under 2.5 micrometers and ozone travel thousands of kilometers. And at the hemispheric or global scale, over years, carbon dioxide and methane drive systemic climate disruption. Meteorological accelerants such as mountains and tall buildings block wind dispersion, while temperature inversions trap smog in lower layers. Let us look closer at the gaseous threats through a pollutant diagnostic table. Carbon monoxide comes primarily from incomplete combustion in automobiles and incinerators, totaling 350 to 600 million tons per year. It causes slow equilibration over 4 to 12 hours with carboxyhemoglobin, depriving tissues of oxygen, and the World Health Organization guideline limit is 10 milligrams per cubic meter over 8 hours. Sulfur dioxide comes from smelting, fossil fuels, and domestic fires and is a major component of acid rain. It causes bronchoconstriction and worsens chronic obstructive pulmonary disease with short 10-minute exposures able to trigger asthma, and its guideline limit is 20 micrograms per cubic meter as a 24-hour mean. Oxides of nitrogen come from coal combustion and road traffic, with 95% emitted as nitric oxide before converting to nitrogen dioxide. They cause bronchitis in asthmatic children and reduced lung function growth, with a guideline limit of 40 micrograms per cubic meter as an annual mean. Ozone, a secondary pollutant, forms through the photochemical reaction of sunlight with nitrogen oxides and volatile organic compounds. Daily mortality rises 0.3% and heart disease mortality rises 0.4% for every 10 microgram per cubic meter increase, with a guideline limit of 100 micrograms per cubic meter over 8 hours. Hydrogen sulfide comes from viscose rayon production, oil refining, liquid manure storage, and tanning, causing an unpleasant odor that progresses to conjunctival irritation and diffuse neurological symptoms, with a guideline limit of 150 micrograms per cubic meter over 24 hours. Now let us look at particulates and metals. Particulate matter covering both PM10 and PM2.5 comes from complex organic and inorganic mixtures, including coarse crustal dust and fine combustion particles. It bypasses the body's defenses, penetrating the alveoli and driving cardiovascular disease, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and lung cancer, with no safe threshold identified. The guideline limits are 10 micrograms per cubic meter annually for PM2.5 and 20 micrograms per cubic meter annually for PM10. Lead comes from smelting, aviation fuel, leaded pipes, and traditional cosmetics. It accumulates in bone and teeth, attacks the central nervous system, and causes irreversible IQ loss, behavioral disorders, and fetal malformations, with a guideline limit of 0.5 to 1 microgram per cubic meter over 1 year. Cadmium comes from zinc production, waste incineration, and tobacco at 0.5 to 3 micrograms per gram. It is inhaled directly and highly concentrated in indoor smoking environments, with a guideline limit of 10 to 20 nanograms per cubic meter annually in urban areas. Polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons with over 10,000 compounds arising from incomplete burning of wood, garbage, and coal are highly carcinogenic and mutagenic. Benzoapyrene is a potent indicator, and these compounds bind to fine ash to travel long distances, assessed through lifetime exposure cancer risk thresholds. The ultimate trap in all of this is the indoor microenvironment. Here is a key insight. Indoor air pollution contributes more to population exposure than the outdoor environment due to prolonged exposure times and airtight, energy efficient construction, severely reducing ventilation. The indoor sources break down into four categories. Combustion sources release fine particles, carbon monoxide, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, nitrogen oxides, and sulfur oxides from solid fuels, coal, and tobacco. Construction and furnishing sources release volatile organic compounds, aldehydes, asbestos, lead, and radon from soil. Biological sources include damp furnishings, climate control components, pets, and dust mites. Chemical sources include pesticides, cleaning operations, and short lived, highly reactive free radicals. The human toll of all this pollution is staggering, at 4.3 million annual deaths. The brain accounts for 34%, with 1.4 million premature deaths due to stroke. The heart accounts for 26%, with over a million premature deaths from ischemic heart disease. The lungs account for 40% in total, broken down as 22% from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, where women using solid fuels are 2.3 times more likely to suffer, 12% from pneumonia, which drives over half of acute lower respiratory infection deaths in children under 5, and 6% from lung cancer, accounting for 17% of all premature lung cancer deaths. Beyond these, there is systemic impairment, as pollution inflames airways, impairs immune response, reduces oxygen carrying capacity, and links to low birth weight and cataracts. To track all this, we rely on a diagnostic network for monitoring atmospheric health. The core indicators panel includes sulfur dioxide, the primary urban and industrial contaminant estimated in all surveys, the smoke or soiling index, where air is filtered through white paper and the stain is measured photoelectrically in micrograms per cubic meter, grit and dust, measured using deposit gauges collected and analyzed monthly, and the air pollution index based on the United States model, an arbitrary alarm trigger combining 10 times sulfur dioxide, 2 times carbon monoxide, and 2 times the coefficient of haze, with the alarm triggering about 12 to 50. In the Indian context, the Central Pollution Control Board monitors cities including Delhi, Jaipur, Kanpur, Ahmedabad, Nagpur, Kolkata, Mumbai, Hyderabad, Chennai, and Kochi. The reality is that suspended particulate matter consistently exceeds standards year round, and coastal cities show extreme respirable fractions. There is also the acid rain phenomenon, where the first rain event captures the maximum concentration of pollutants, with low pH and high sulfate and nitrate levels, causing temporary urban acid rain. The air quality index ranges from 0 to 500 and beyond, divided into 6 categories. A score of 0 to 50 is considered good. A score of 51 to 100 is moderate. A score of 101 to 150 is unhealthy for sensitive groups. A score of 151 to 200 is unhealthy. A score of 201 to 300 is very unhealthy, and a score of 301 and above is hazardous. This number is driven by 6 key pollutants: fine and respirable particulate matter, ozone, nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide, and sulfur dioxide, each attacking the body through a different pathway, from the lungs to the heart to the blood itself. Defense against all this pollution rests on 4 pillars of prevention. Containment, an engineering approach, prevents escape into ambient air. engineered via arresters, enclosures, and industrial air cleaning at the source. Replacement, a technological approach, swaps toxic processes for clean ones, such as shifting to solar, wind, and natural gas and transitioning to de-layered petrol. Dilution, a geographic approach, utilizes the environment's self-cleaning capacity by establishing green belts between industrial and residential zones. Legislation, a policy approach, serves as the overarching enforcement umbrella, setting chimney heights, smokeless zones, and ambient air standards through bodies like the Central Pollution Control Board. Indoor spaces, especially sensitive environments like hospitals, require specific air disinfection protocols. Mechanical ventilation is the primary defense, continuously diluting vitiated air and reducing ambient bacterial density. Ultraviolet radiation is deployed in sensitive wards, with lamps shaded and located strictly in the upper portion of rooms to protect eyes and skin. Chemical mists using triethylene glycol vapors are deployed as an active air bactericide, highly effective against suspended droplet nuclei and dust. And dust control involves the application of oil to hospital ward floors to capture and neutralize the bacterial content of the air at ground level. To summarize, air pollution is a pervasive chemical and physical disruption. It exposes 1.3 billion urbanites to toxins outdoors and kills 4.3 million people annually, indoors through respiratory and cardiovascular collapse. This is a multi-scale threat originating from urban automobiles causing photochemical smog, heavy industry releasing sulfur dioxide and fly ash, domestic solid fuels like coal and wood, and micro-environmental tobacco smoke. We can quantify this threat through the air pollution index and physiological thermal markers, including effective temperature, radiant-aware corrected effective temperature, and the predicted 4-hour sweat rate limit of under 3 liters for comfort. And finally, this threat can be defeated through layered macro defenses such as containment, replacement, green belt dilution, and legislation, combined with active micro interventions such as ultraviolet radiation, chemical mists, and mechanical ventilation. Hope you have understand about the science of atmospheric quality and thermal comfort. If you found this video useful, please like, share, and subscribe for more easy to understand videos on community medicine, public health, and medical education. Thank you.